Since 2006, there have been about 10 million foreclosures, which is unbelievable. And everybody knows the pain of those foreclosures, and that's a huge problem in the country. Now, was a second problem with those foreclosures. There was the robo-signing scandal, and the banks wound up having to pony up kind of $25 billion for it, because the reality is a lot of that is going to come from the U.S. taxpayer. But at least there was a settlement there, and of course they won't be charged with any of the crimes, even though it was criminal. So that was another huge problem. And in the robo-signing scandal, they would foreclose on houses they didn't even own, because they weren't checking the documents. They were just having robo-signatures on there. We foreclose, we foreclose, we foreclose. Whether they should have foreclosed or not, whether it was even their mortgage or not, they would foreclose. And so we know about that tremendous injustice. Well, what's interesting is the third kind of injustice because of these foreclosures. There's 2 million houses that are still in foreclosure process but have not been foreclosed upon. Well, why is that? Well, it turns out there's this thing called a zombie title problem, where the banks tell you that they're going to foreclose on your house, and then they don't. Now, why do they do that, and what kind of trouble does that cause? Whew. Now, wait till you get a load of the troubles. Number one, when they go to say that you have to leave the house, and they do, and the people leave the house, they don't realize they still have the title in their name. And if the bank changes their mind and decides not to foreclose on your house, for reasons I'll explain in a second, well, then you still have to keep paying the taxes. You have to make sure that your lawn and your house is in good shape. Otherwise, the county starts giving fees and penalties and fines, etc. And by the way, the bank keeps charging you, saying, hey, you know what? You still owe me that mortgage. You don't even realize you own the house because they never told you. It got so bad that in 3 different states recently, since nobody knew that they still owned the house because the bank had tricked them with the zombie title trick, the houses blew up. And you think, no, come on, really? Yes, you know why? Because they never turned off the gas. And so since they don't turn off the gas and nobody's in the house, the gas builds up, builds up, builds up, and in 3 different instances, at least, the houses have literally exploded. I mean, you want to talk about literal zombies, right? The houses become zombies in a sense. Now, wait till you get a sense of how horrible this injustice is and what they do to Americans here. So David Vulker is one of the guys. He had a contractor business in Buffalo, New York, and his business ran into trouble during the recession. He couldn't make his payments, so HSBC said, we're foreclosing on your house. They literally placed a padlock on his door and put bank stickers all over the floor, and they said, you're done, you're foreclosed, get out of here, okay? They literally locked him out of his own house. So he was foreclosed. He went home. He went to his daughter's house and was living in the living room, I believe. And then they come back later and go, we changed our minds, and it turns out you still own the house, and so you now owe all these taxes, all these liens, all this extra mortgages, and all the extra penalties that you have accrued. Well, Volker says, quote, I was stunned. I never for a moment thought I still owned this house. You know why? Because they padlocked the house and they told him he was foreclosed on. Now he goes and says, okay, look, HSBC, I have arranged the sale. It's just a short sale for this house. You are going to get the money. The bank says, no, we don't want to do it. You still owe us, and we're going to give it over to debt collectors, and we're still going to have the government hound you, okay? But we will not accept the sale. But then what in the world are you supposed to do? Okay, we're just getting warmed up. Now wait till you find out about the other people that this has afflicted. So let's go to Marlon Sheaf. He's a 55-year-old who used to drive trucks for Sarah Lee. He did that for 25 years. He was recently sentenced to probation. Why? Because of the zombie titles. You're thinking, no, they can't arrest you for this. That doesn't make any sense. It does. Let me explain. So the county said, hey, listen, you got a tax lien, man. You technically own the house. They lied to you. That's your problem, not my problem. The bank told you were foreclosed on like they do in every one of these cases. Sad day for you. You owe me this lien and you're not paying it. You owe me all these taxes for this house that you don't even live in, right? And then they give her over to a debt collector. Oh, here we go. Now here comes the trouble. So in his case, they said, we're charging you $4,185 for code violations. I'm going to charge you an extra $185 for court costs. And we'll even charge you $10,000 if the city is forced to tear down the house you don't live in and the bank told you was foreclosed upon. Okay? So that's a zombie title for you. So what's he going to do? They arrested him because once you owe the government money, they can arrest you. Now, it's actually a private debt collector who's actually collecting the money, but it doesn't matter. He can use the power of the government to arrest you anyway. So poor Marlon, and this makes me sick, he has to go out there and repair the house. He can't live it. There's already people that came in there and they have all sorts of junk in there, homeless people, drug addicts, etc. But he has to go and repair the house. So he had to paint the house, he had to repair the steps, and this is the indignity, for whatever reason, really got under my skin. He has to go back and mow the lawn every week. Oh, for Christ's sake, but the bank doesn't even let him sell the house, as you saw with the other case. And he says, well, I got to get rid of this debt. I don't have this money. I didn't live in the house. They say, sad day, the banks don't have to tell you if they decide not to foreclose. And they're under no legal obligation. You're under all the legal obligations. Now, by the way, if you sold the house for a profit, would you then get the profit? Nope, the bank would get it. So they get all the benefits, you get all of the costs. Gee, I wonder why people are frustrated with banks and our government for not being able to help us at all. So, we continue. Cleveland Marshall College law professor Kermit Lynn had a really great line about this. He said, these people have become like indentured serfs with all the responsibilities for the properties, but none of the rights. He's exactly right. I mean, this is what they've done to us on a mass scale. We work for them. And in this, the indignity that you can't even live in the house, but you have to pay the bills, otherwise you're going to jail, is mind-numbing. So why do the banks do it? Well, here's the interesting part. They say banks can at least reap the insurance, the tax and accounting benefits for documenting the loss if they say, oh, the house is valueless. I can't sell this house. So I got rid of the guys that are in the house, but it's not worth anything. So I'm going to write it off as a loss. Then I get the tax benefits of it, and I claim it on insurance. If I sold the house, I couldn't do that because I'd get some money back. I couldn't get the insurance, and I wouldn't get as big a tax benefit. And on top of that, and the reason that they're kicking the people out of the house so they can play this trick on them is just to get a little extra money. They then sell the unpaid debt to debt collectors. And now there's even more unpaid debt because you didn't realize you were accruing penalties and fees because you didn't know you still own the house. So they turn over to debt collectors and they say hound them forever and make sure they, or get whatever you want out of them because they already got the money from the debt collectors. This is cruelty beyond imagination, but it gets worse. There is actually no regulations that require the banks to let homeowners know that they have changed their mind about a foreclosure. Is the government working on that at all? Absolutely not. Now, here's Judge Patrick Carney of Buffalo, New York. He works at the housing court, and here's what he says. The banks do not answer inquiries. They do not answer phone calls. They do not answer letters. Sound like Dr. Seuss character. The whole situation is surreal, he said. Think about that. Not only do they tell you you're foreclosed, they padlock your house, they send you to the debt collectors, they possibly get you arrested, and then when you ask them, they don't answer any inquiries and they have a legal right not to. Then what the hell are you supposed to do? Okay, it gets worse. Just when you think it can't get any worse. Well, then we go to the case of Joseph Keller. He's from Columbus, Ohio, and like all the rest of these cases, hardworking American, ran into some trouble during the recession, couldn't afford to make the payments. Well, he says, okay, and the bank told him, you're foreclosed on, go home. Again, goes home to live with his kids in their tiny little room, can barely move around in there. Meanwhile, the whole house is sitting there empty, and again, people break into the house, same story. So then he gets a letter from Chase's debt collector, Professional Recovery Services, and they say, at this time, we're able to offer you a settlement, oh, fantastic, of $25,258, $25,258.41 on this account to be paid within 15 days. Well, are they not merciful? The guy doesn't have $25,000. He didn't even realize he owned the house. Again, you got to go back. You got to fix the house so you don't get more fines, etc. You got to mow the lawn. And by the way, he doesn't just owe them $25,000. He also owes the county $11,759.08. So basically, he owes close to $37,000, which he does not have, and he has to maintain the house, which he also does not have. But technically, he owns. So what's the extra twist in this case? Well, turns out he's got significant liver disease. It's advanced. He's got hepatitis C and inactive tuberculosis. And he needs treatment from this, but it's a good thing because the Social Security Administration can give him disability benefits. But they just rejected those benefits because on the records, it shows that he still owns a house. The court says we might be able to hear your case in December. Keller said, I will very likely be dead by then.